welcome to the second review of the evening. Up this time is Radical Rex. Let me get through this. Radical Rex is a fire-breathing Tyrannosaurus on a skateboard who has to save the dinosaur race under the spell of an evil creature.
I guess fire-breathing, the primary trait of dinosaurs.
There's more here. And it is, well, you'll hear. Come hang with Radical Rex. He's the baddest, fire-breathing Tyrannosaurus ever to shred prehistoric pavement. This bad boy on wheels is out to save the dinosaur race. Check Rex thrashing on his board, sporting his flame breath, busting out with killer jump kicks, swinging on vines, and blasting out screen-shaking roars. Excellent. Slammed through 10 wild levels of jammin' jungles, freaked-out forests, haunted dino graveyards, piranha-infested underwater caverns, and inside a giant dinosaur. Rex keeps you grooving while you keep him moving past 20 of the meanest prehistoric nasties to rock his dino world. No sweat for Rex, because he's too hip to be extinct. Okay.
That is some 90s ass ad copy.
And this is the stuff that's written on the Steam page.
I think it's literally copied from the original 90s ad copy.
It has to be.
I remember seeing ads for this in magazines in the 90s.
It has to be. This has to be from 1992 or 3. I'm like that is so 90s. I'm like, I remember ad campaigns like that.
As long as he's 90s radical and not some kind of exclusionary radical, we can be okay.
That being said, let's talk about the way Radical Rex here looks. I'm like, I am impressed at how not 90s he looks. Or rather, he doesn't look like a goddamn Sonic ripoff.
That is true. He is somewhat less anthropomorphic, although he's still pretty anthropomorphized.
Yeah, he's pretty.
He's not wearing shoes.
He's not wearing shoes. He's not wearing the goddamn shades. He doesn't have the fucking DreamWorks smirk.
He's not wearing a T-shirt with a logo on it.
Like, my point is here, his overall character design is positively restrained for the 1990s. And I'm not joking about that. Because, oh god, just the fucking Sonic ripoffs of the 90s.
I'm having flashbacks to Bubsy and I don't like it.
Oh, it's the game music. Okay, for a second I was wondering if Petty Fan was having some digestive problems.
Nope.
This might be an issue with, since we got the game audio going.
It's fine.
Anyway, yeah. So, Radical Rex was originally released by Activision and a company called Laserbeam Entertainment in Europe. But it was a game for the NES, the Super NES, Genesis, and Sega CD. And if I had to guess the version that they're emulating here at a eyeball glance, I'm gonna say it's the Super Nintendo, just because of how colorful it looks. Yeah, okay, it's not using a whole bunch of overall colors because it's got so much green and brown it could qualify as a PlayStation 1 title.
Apparently that changes somewhat in later stages, but...
Yeah, but this stage...
How much we'll see.
But I'm like, you can definitely see the Sonic influence nonetheless because, those loops and slopes. Yeah. Can you tell Sonic was popular in the 90s?
Somewhere between Sonic and Donkey Kong Country, because that also had a very, hey, it's a brown and green jungle first world.
Right, but I couldn't say that Donkey Kong Country was the primary influence because this game has a release date of like 93, or no, it's got October and September of 94. So that's putting it around the actual release time of Donkey Kong Country. So maybe some aesthetical values, but it's not it's not in that mold like some other games were. Like, it doesn't have the ACM going on here.
Mhm.
Though, not sure if Beam Software could have afforded that. I guess the pogo stick. That was a surprisingly popular mode of transportation in the 80s and 90s.
I remember some of the years where that was a popular, like, hobby.
I'm like, I don't know. I never knew anyone who used the pogo stick. Like, I thought the pogo stick came from like the 50s and 60s.
Oh no, it did, but there was a revival of the pogo stick, like somewhere between Pogs and the revival of yo-yos.
I do remember the revival of the yo-yos in the dunking ad campaign where
it was sort of extreme sports tangential because it's something that you could do physical movements and potentially get yourself grievously injured.
But perhaps this is enough reminiscing about the 90s, and we should turn it over to Petty with the review of the game proper.
So yeah, this is a game.
Petty?
Petty fan, are you muted?
No, I didn't switch over to the right audio device. Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were. Yeah, I think I heard you on the stream actually. But I couldn't hear you on in my ears.
Live broadcasting. Anyway, so what is your experience with Radical Rex been?
It's a game.
Okay. Honestly, when it comes to the Sonic ripoffs of the 90s, that's hitting over par.
Fair.
Or hitting under par. Like, no, it's under par.
So what you're saying, it's hitting better than par.
Yes, there we go.
It's not fucking Bubsy is what we're saying.
Yes.
I'm
Or
pretty sure
Awesome
worse than
Possum.
Bubsy is a war crime.
That'd be Awesome Possum Kicks Dr. Machino's Butt. That is a real game that exists.
We're gonna have to venture into that hell one day, aren't we?
Maybe if we want to talk about 90s Sonic ripoffs, and there are a lot of them.
I know. I was around then, homie.
Yes, so was I.
Era of the Acrobats.
Yep. God, I'm trying to remember, fucking headphone jack or something like that.
I remember that. That was one of them.
God, I'm trying to remember.
Mohawk and headphone jack.
That's it. That's the game.
And the gimmick on that one was fucking directional gravity.
Yeah. I think it was like the biggest Sonic ripoff you could find on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, because they had like a spin dash function.
Hell, even Crash Bandicoot is a Sonic ripoff. But once again, we're not getting into
Crash put it in a different direction, literally, so it was less noticeable.
The game was literally codenamed Sonic Dash Game.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, getting back to Radical Rex here.
So yeah, this is kind of hard to control. It's also like
slippery or like stiff.
It might be a little too stiff, and like whenever you see slopes, some of them you can walk up, some of them you can't.
Sonic did that too. I mean, in Sonic's case, it was a relatively coherent physics deal.
Yeah. I'm like, look, so many of these games ripped off Sonic without understanding what made Sonic Sonic. I get the impression that Radical Rex here would have been a better game without the slopes and curves and stuff. Because looking
without the slopes being, you can gain speed on this.
Yeah. And I suppose here's a bit of you could call that Donkey Kong Country, but Sonic also flipped off vines as well.
Mm-hmm. Some of it's just like, oh, you have a jungle level, you're gonna have that.
Yeah. Like Plus, it's not off brand for Radical Rex here. I am wondering if a skateboard is actually going to appear, though.
You actually can get on a skateboard. They're found throughout the levels. There were a lot of them in the first level. And yeah, it's kind of unwieldy to control.
Okay, so according to Wikipedia, this game was released on the Genesis and Sega CD, but it was replaced by with a weasel-like mammal named Skrillex. Which
sounds less appealing than the dinosaur.
I'm like, that's the name I see here, Skrillex, which sounds less like the radical 90s and more like the EDM early 2010s.
That's just because it sounds specifically like one guy.
Still, it sounds remarkably close to Skrillex. Anyway, let's see other things that Radical Rex can do. He has a roar that kills and hurts all enemies on screen, and when he's underwater, he can actually attack with a bubble spray.
And it's like to actually kill enemies, your like fire breath roar thing has to stun them, and then you have to melee them.
That's a bit convoluted for a platform game.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know that was a thing until I saw it in the attract screen.
No. Honestly, looking at this game and hearing how it plays, I'm not surprised that this game just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit novel, but it's not
yeah. There are maybe a bit of individual pieces here that are doing some things that other games aren't doing, but so much of this game is definitely been there, done that. Look, even forgoing Sonic ripoffs, mascot-based platform games were a dime a dozen by the early 90s. Yeah.
And one thing right where I'm at right now, these little green things that are sticking up out of the ground, those are apparently death spikes.
Yeah, I mean, I intuited that, but I can see why one would not.
Now here's a question: do water droplets hurt you?
I have not gotten to any yet.
You do have a traditional life bar, though, yes?
Yes.
Not, for example, a system of pickups where when you get hit, you drop a bunch of them.
Yeah, though there are still some one-hit kill things like the spikes.
Yeah, because this level design is looking a little sprawling.
Yeah, it's very hard, because it's not just go right to win like Sonic.
Right.
It's, where the hell am I supposed to be going now?
And again, in the 90s, there were a lot of platformers like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically if they were made in Europe. Though this game was not made in Europe, it was made in Australia. But I'm sure Beam Software had some experience in that kind of school of game design. Let's see. So how's the emulation on this?
It seems to be fine.
Now, and this is from Pico Interactive, so I'm assuming it's usually using their usual emulation methods.
Yeah, I think so.
Which means it's all serviceable. We've all played some Pico Interactive titles at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, I suppose it's time to talk about the price.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so this game is clocking in at $7.99. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong page. Hang on. The actual, it's $1 less, $6.99. Though it's on sale currently for $2.79.
For $2, probably fine. I'm not really sure about $7.
Relatively speaking, I could see this going for $7. And keep in mind, you were probably expected to pay like 50, 60.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's worlds fucking cheaper than it would have been on a SNES cartridge.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. So, keep that in mind. And yeah, we know it's not that time or place anymore. But I'm not one to discount history either.
Weird, I like you're a history major or something like that.
Like, it's also, I don't quite agree philosophically with certain other reviewers who don't take the past into account. I'm like, it's like, if you want to talk about in a modern sense how it plays in 2022, fine, I get that. But it's like, this game was not made for 2022. This game was made for 1994.
I mean, yeah, a lot of games are going to be better nowadays. Nowadays, you don't literally have a limited number of colors that you can use on the screen at a time in a meaningful way, or a maximum size for the number of things that can move on the screen as a unit.
Yeah.
Those were both very real restrictions. Hell, back then you barely could program your games with like a graphical interface. You had to use what was built in. You had to use like bespoke program. I mean, it wasn't quite the machine code level that NES games were on for a while, but
right. And we'll probably be talking a bit more about that in the fourth game review. But yeah, this seems like it's all right for the price it's going for. And I think that sums up the game in general. Like, it's a very mid-tier, mid-90s Sonic ripoff platformer. It plays and it generally looks like that, with maybe a few design irregularities here and there. Like, sprawling level design, yeah, that was definitely more common in the 90s.
Because at that point it was still kind of a flex of, look how big our levels are.
Yeah.
Remember, we're still like less than a decade removed from, look, our game has smooth scrolling.
Uh-huh. And once again, I will give mild kudos for the protagonist not looking like a goddamn 90s bubble tape commercial.
With the possible exception of when he's on a skateboard, but then at least he's, responsible in using a helmet, I believe.
I don't think there was a helmet.
Oh, no, I think I'm thinking of some of the art.
Yeah.
Right. Which, like, you can go back to the 80s with the skateboards, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Master Higgins comes immediately to mind.
Yeah, when I got not interrupted, but distracted from my making comments about power-up systems, that was going to be one of them where you power up by gaining a skateboard and then getting hit and losing it. The other one I was going to go Sonic Mario Adventure Island.
All right, so yeah, I think that'll about do it for Radical Rex here.
Mm-hmm.
So be sure to tune in after the break, as the Golics will be reviewing Dino Rush.